That's right, brainwashing. We're being taught the official fable that 9/11 was an outside job, but when you actually study the facts, it is a complete fairy tale. Now, in the UK, as well as the United States, it's now being added to children's textbooks, the complete official story. Now, the mayor of London has made some very bizarre statements, and we're going to be looking at this in more depth in just a moment. But there's the report at Infowars.com. Official 911 fable to become part of school curriculum. Government-supported effort to encourage critical thinking actually encourages obedient regurgitation of lies. This upcoming Sunday marks the 10th anniversary of the tragic attacks of September 11th, and we're going to be having special reports every weeknight looking at different facets of 9/11. This coming Thursday, we're going to look at the 10 smoking guns of 9/11 that prove that the attacks were an inside job meant to create a pretext to destroy our constitutional republic, establish a domestic police state, and launch a global corporate empire that would be defended and expanded using American blood, sweat, and tears. But I wanted to talk to Paul Joseph Watson of PrisonPlanet.com, who joins us from England, with a breakdown of an article he wrote today, Official 911 Fable to be part of school curriculum. Then we're going to expand into some other news reports, RAI, Novastat, and others. Al-Qaeda acquires weapons in Libya, EU official, head of counterterrorism says, and more, including the one, the only, Chuck Norris coming out and saying, why is the government rebranding the threat of terror from Muslim Al-Qaeda onto Tea Partiers, conservatives, and predominantly wicked white people? Joining us with more on all of this is Paul Watson. Paul, this is pretty amazing, but it's hidden in plain view. The official fable, despite the fact that in some polls the vast majority question it, the official fable of 9/11 is to now be taught to U.S. school children, force-fed.
Well, in the United Kingdom as well, yeah. I mean, this reeks of creepy top-down government-sponsored indoctrination. And what this is about is it's called the London 9/11 Project, and it poses as a charity, but in fact it's a creature of the establishment. It was actually launched yesterday in London with this unveiling of this macabre 9/11 memorial by the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson. And this charity is also supported by the Port Authority of New York, Common Purpose, which is it's a steering committee in the United Kingdom, and many figures of the establishment, including the treasurer of the Conservative ruling party in Britain. And this whole project claims that it's about encouraging students. They're going to be aiming this at teenagers, 12 to 16 years old in British schools, to encourage students to engage in critical thinking about 9/11, and yet its first mandate when it was rolled out was to, quote, demolish conspiracy theories about the attacks.
That's right. We have the London Telegraph interview, and it was in your article yesterday, but this is also going on here in the U.S., a similar program is why I raised that point, with the mayor of London, like Bozo the Clown, unveiling this new memorial and then saying it's our job to have a controlled demolition of these conspiracy theories that 10 years on continue to grow. And we've got all these BBC hit pieces, US hit pieces. The system is scared to death. I mean, their favorite tool of staging terror attacks and using it to crack down on the public, they are hopping mad, Paul, that it's not working.
They're mad and they're desperate, which is why this week sees a complete onslaught of new 9/11 hit pieces against 9/11 truth by the likes of BBC, National Geographic, and the History Channel, which I find it pretty rich, pretty ironic that the History Channel, every time I turn it on, is talking with, you know, lending credence and credibility to UFOs and alien invasions, giving people platform to spread that topic.
And Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Chupacabras.
Yeah, everything that's rife with misinformation, and yet anything to do with 9/11, it's always a hit piece against 9/11 truth.
Well, because the global banksters don't care if you're obsessed with leprechauns all day, but they are concerned if you know that Building 7 was blown up and they announced it on TV beforehand, or the U.S. troops were already massed in Afghanistan in and around for the invasion or hijackers trained at U.S. bases? Please continue, Paul.
Well, precisely. They don't want real critical thinking, which is why when they say, oh, well, this is to encourage critical thinking because people are confused about the attacks, it's not that. It's the opposite. Anything that questions the officially state-approved fable of 9/11 is rejected. This is indoctrination. It's the opposite of critical thinking.
But this is great because they're so discredited, and their false flag attack and 7/7 as well is the pretext to sell this total abolition of freedom. Their great new religion of tyranny, the foundational event, like the birth of baby Jesus, this is the birth of baby fake terror. It's all basically been overturned now. And so the more they flail about bleeding out, the more people question because they have no credibility. Don't they get it that when they attack us, they only add credibility? I love it.
Well, I mean, that's why the polls, whereas immediately after 9/11 and in the years following, fear of terrorism amongst the American public was up at 80%, fear that an attack would be about to happen. It went down to 60, and now it's at less than 40. It's in the 30s. So people are not afraid of terrorism because they're starting to find out the real forces behind it.
Well, look, I do British radio, big national. I do the public. I do the talk sport that's private. I do it all the time. The hosts admit that they will beg for callers, Paul, that disagree with me when I'm on like a 2-hour interview sometimes, and one person will call in and they can't even talk. They'll get hundreds of emails and text messages. It's big on UK talk radio. We are the majority. I mean, I saw 5 years ago a poll in the New York Times, scientific, Angus and Reed New York Times, 83% question the official story. I mean, their fable, their hoax, just like the JFK, 92% on average. No, the government did that. And now we have the tapes coming out with Arthur Schlesinger, the famous historian, with Jackie Kennedy saying the government killed him. We've got LBJ's own lawyer, Barr McClellan, coming out saying they killed him. We've got his own mistress coming out, LBJ's mistress. We've got all these witnesses and the head hitman, E. Howard Hunt, who ran assassination teams worldwide. I mean, what more do we need, Paul?
Well, this is exactly why they're freaking out, and this is why they need positive reinforcement, a psychological brainwashing ploy, to ram home the pseudoscience that giant steel frame buildings can collapse in their own footprint at near free fall speed, and it's about reinforcing the
or
myth
that magic passports survive on their own and are found the same day. It's
right, precisely, because people just don't believe it anymore, so they need to get it in at the level where it's 11 and 12-year-olds, who most of whom have never even heard about 9/11 or thought it was something completely different to what it was. So they're getting in very early with this Clockwork Orange-style brainwashing. They'll probably get out the eyebrow clips later on and subject the kids to this, because they say that it's to demolish conspiracy theories and the confusion surrounding the attacks. It's not confusion. It's the fact that people have looked into it for themselves, used critical thinking, God forbid, and are coming to their own conclusions, which is not what they want.
Well, Paul, the same thing is happening in the UK. They've, don't let them show the Al Gore film to kids because it's been proven in court it's a fraud. Here domestically, he gives cussing tirades at the Aspen Institute, saying no one is listening to us anymore, and admitting that he's being laughed at in most quarters. And it turns out the sea levels have dropped now. So Der Spiegel's reporting, global warming makes them drop, not rise. So many of their hoaxes, as the Club of Rome said, 20-something years ago in a report we've covered, they said we're going to use the threat of fake terror to take people's rights, but also climate change and other things to take people's rights. And it's just not working anymore.